Hi there, my name is Ciaran Dyer and this is Looking Back for the Future. In the UK, we have always had a massive problem with coastal erosion, so much so that it has permanently affected our coastline forever. There have been countless number of lost towns, villages and even cities that have been destroyed by coastal erosion. In this video, I will be visiting a few of these different locations. I will be trying to find out whether any repairs have been made to the towns and villages and to see if anything has been put into place to help prevent coastal erosion in the future. But the question I am wondering is, have we learnt anything from these past events? Or are we just as likely to repeat the same mistakes that they made and be lost to coastal erosion in the future? The first location I will be visiting is a town called Dunwich. This town sits on the Suffolk coast off the east of England. Dunwich is just a modest small fishing village now, with a few fish and chip shops, a pub and a few local run businesses.
However, this was not always the case. Dunwich used to be a massive harbour and trading town. It was also one of England's 10 largest towns and was the capital of the Kingdom of East Anglia. However, the town was about to undertake a catastrophic change. Being on the English coast, Dunwich was no stranger to bad weather. In the late 1200s to mid-1300s, it was bombarded with decades of bad storms. In 1286 and 1328, it was hit with two particularly bad ones, with the last one destroying the harbour of the town.
The last storm was so strong that it blew shingle from the beach into the mouth of the harbour, blocking it off and stopping its use. All of the ships were redirected to nearby Walberswick, which started a strong and fierce rivalry between the two harbour towns. Dunwich was losing a lot of business due to its blocked harbour and its rivalry with Walberswick. They really needed the business and the finance to help fight against coastal erosion, and the fact that they were losing a lot of business meant that they were becoming less and less influential.
Dunwich withstood the storms for as long as possible. However, it could not hold them off forever, and the citizens started to be evacuated. By the 18th century, nearly the entire town had been evacuated, other than a small group of people who had always lived there and refused to leave. It is rumoured that these group of people used to get out on their boats when the town elections came, and they would sail out to where the old town hall used to be and cast their votes on the water there.
Not only did the storm do horrendous damage to the town itself, it also done unrepairable damage to the coastline of England, and so much so that a bit of land that Dunwich once sat on broke off from the rest of the mainland England and sunk into the sea.
I'm stood here on the old site of All Saints Church, which was disused in 1758. It was eroded over the cliff between 1904 and 1920, and all that remains of the church is this gravestone behind me of Jacob Foster, who died at the age of 38. There are still bones that are said to fall over the cliff every now and again from other graveyards that used to be here.
The events of Dunwich have led it to being dubbed the UK's Atlantis, due to the fact that it was nearly swallowed entirely by the sea, other than a small part of it which remains now. This story of Dunwich is an extreme story of coastal erosion. However, it is true nonetheless, and it shows just how dangerous coastal erosion can be. It can ruin such a great town and change history forever. The people in England at the time knew very little about coastal erosion, and even less about how to defend against it. However, looking into the events of Dunwich have made me realise that I don't think we know much more now than we did back then. Our defences are very similar, and the damages are nearly just as bad. I'm currently here in Dunwich Museum, stood next to this model of what Dunwich would have looked like in the year 1200. Everything past this line towards the sea is what Dunwich lost. They now only have this. And that is why they have gone from being a big town, one of the 10 largest in England, to being just a small little village. Even to this day, Dunwich is fighting a losing battle against the sea. It is losing up to 1 metre of its beach every year to the sea, and there is not much that they can do about it at all. The second location I will be travelling to is Hampton-on-Sea in Kent. Hampton-on-Sea does not remain anymore. The small part of it which does remain has been merged with local Herne Bay.
Hampton-on-Sea is no longer able to be visited. It is completely submerged underwater, and each year the waves get closer and closer to the houses on the shoreline. The name Hampton means home farm, and this is a very apt name if you think about the origins of the place. Before it was developed, it had 2 farmhouses, 1 pub and a few bungalows. However, this soon changed when the oyster company moved in.
In its early days, Hampton is seen as a bit of a smuggler's haven. This is because it is rumoured that a lot of the farmhouses and pubs had cellars underneath their floors in order for smugglers to hide contraband from the authorities. However, in 1864, things were about to change for Hampton. The Herne Bay, Hampton and Reculver Oyster Fishery Company was set up. This company was going to take Hampton from being a small, modest fishing village like Dunwich and turn it into a big powerhouse town. At the time, it was quite hard to set up an oyster fishing company, as there was a lot of people trying to do it and it was a very prosperous business. However, the Herne Bay and Hampton Company got the rights to build their company due to the fact that they had plans to improve the town. The Oyster Company got off to a fairly smooth start at the beginning. However, there was another oyster company just down the road at Whitstable, and the Whitstable Oyster Company was much longer established and much more well respected, and a lot of potential customers were going to the Whitstable business instead of the Hampton one. And in 1877, the Hampton Oyster Fishing Company hit a particularly bad patch when they'd done so much fishing that they created a scarcity of oysters in the sea. This caused the government to set up a committee to look into the incident. The committee passed an act in the same year that banned fishing for certain types of oysters in the months between May and August. Alongside this, Hampton was hit by a few bad winters in a row. These winters killed off a lot of oysters in the shallow waters. So the ban on oyster fishing and the death of a lot of oysters in the following months meant that Hampton was in a real struggle. The Oyster Company was not able to recover from this, and in 1881 the company was sold, and then it was closed down in 1884. The loss of the Oyster Company was huge for Hampton. It was their one big business, and their business which was bringing them a lot of importance and influence. However, there was another business on the rise which was going to help them. This was the Herne Bay Argus. The Herne Bay Argus was established in 1879 and was originally intended to be a resort. However, the owner of the company died in 1880, and this meant that the company had to be sold on. It was then sold to the mayor of Southend, the town just across from the sea from Herne Bay. This mayor was not just a mayor, he was also a massive land mogul. Ramos had plans to build a resort of his own. He claimed that this resort would be a place for all classes. He started selling the land very quickly and cheaply, and it was working as it was affordable, and he had promised a lot of infrastructure being built. However, the owners of these plots of land soon discovered that they had been lied to about the infrastructure, and it was never going to be built. And in 1897, a bad storm had hit Hampton and damaged a lot of the buildings and sped up the process of coastal erosion, bringing the sea much closer to the homes of these people.
In 1901, the houses closest to the waterfront were starting to be abandoned, as the high tide watermark had started to reach the house closest to the waterfront. By 1905, Hampton Grand Parade and Marine Drive had nearly fully been eroded away. The sea had also broke through the town's only defence, the seawall.
It was in this year that the land company dissolved, and investors were asking for the company to buy back the plots of land which they had sold them. By 1911, the residents of a residential area named Herncliffe Gardens Terrace had been evacuated from their buildings, as it is said that the water had reached the back doors of their homes.
Behind me is the last remaining building of Hampton-on-Sea. This is Hampton Inn. Right now it is very close to the water, but it wasn't always like this. Hampton was deemed a drowned town in 1921, when all that remained was the old farmhouse. And then in 1934, the old farmhouse was destroyed. And then the whole of Hampton was gone, never to be recovered again. I'm currently in Pagham, and the reason why I'm here in Pagham is due to it is a town that is constantly under threat of coastal erosion. The residents here are in serious trouble if they do not manage to sort this problem out soon. It is predicted by the year 2037, Pagham will be in serious trouble, with them predicted to lose 30 homes over the next 5 years. It is hard to predict the exact amount of numbers and figures for the people who will be affected by coastal erosion in Pagham, as they are all estimates and predictions. However, there are 4 methods which are in place to help stop this coastal erosion, and they are
rock placement, shingle recycling, reprofiling timber groins and seawalls. However, each of these prevention methods does not actually stop coastal erosion, it just simply slows it down. And with each of these methods only having a lifespan of roughly 5 years, it does not seem to be a very long-lasting method to help the residents. The Ciaran District Council are doing everything they can to help prevent coastal erosion, and although recently they have been able to increase the width of their crest through shingle replacement and importing rocks, this does not make up for the 20 metres that they lost in just 3 years. They also claim that they know of 102 properties in the area which are at risk of flooding. Recently, plans have been made to cut a channel in the Spit. This is to force the waves away from the beach and to reopen the old harbour. However, this ran into a few problems, as it will cost a lot of money and it may cause a lot of damage to the environment around it. However, recently they have decided that this plan is necessary and it needs to happen to help prevent coastal erosion from taking the whole of Pagham.
Visiting Pagham and looking into their difficulties has made me wonder whether we have actually learned anything from the other events that I've looked at in this video. We seem to be repeating the same events over and over and over again. And I'm wondering, what will it actually take for us to learn and move past this problem of coastal erosion?
The problem with coastal erosion is, it is such a slow and gradual change. We often don't realise the damage it is causing until it is too late.
It could be argued that Pagham is just another example of noticing things too late. It is said that over the next 100 years, Pagham could lose up to 2,000 properties and would be at risk of losing the road that I stand on right now, the East Front Road and the West Front Road. Soon, where I'm standing now could be entirely covered by the sea.
These sites are not the only locations which have been affected by coastal erosion. Coastal erosion affects places all over the world, and these are but a few examples which I have brought to the table to help emphasise the issue of coastal erosion. The thing with these stories is that we should learn from them, use them as learning blocks to help recover and prevent in the future. The issue is, we do not seem to have done this, with Yorkshire even having the fastest eroding coastline in Europe. And the fact the UK is an island means that we are more vulnerable than most other countries to the effects of coastal erosion, and we seriously need to learn how to deal with it. After visiting these locations, I do not think that we are much better equipped to deal against coastal erosion than we were back in their time. It is a very uphill battle fighting against coastal erosion, and if we stand any chance, we need to learn from history and not repeat the same mistakes which they made. Thank you for watching. This has been Looking Back for the Future.